Hello, and welcome to another episode of Unzipped with Sherry with yours truly. Obviously, I am Sherry. First and foremost, Happy New Year to everyone. It is December 31st, 2024. My God, let me tell you, this has been probably the most transformative, is that the word, right? Transformative year that I personally have ever had. So the purpose of this episode tonight is I want to kind of, start segueing into the mindset topics as we're getting into the new year. I'm going to start bringing in guests to talk about mindset, people who've overcome amazing feats and everything. But I wanted to kind of talk today about why I want to make this transition. And this year is probably the best year to make this transition. So with that being said, I want you to enjoy the ride with me as we kind of recap some of the things that have happened this year that have been the most, I don't want to just keep saying transformative. That's not the right word, but it has been the biggest wake up call in everything. It has been the biggest challenges I think I've ever faced. There was moments this year that have challenged me physically to my core. There were events of this year that have challenged me mentally, spiritually, emotionally to my core. And I think, as you guys know, anybody who knows me in person, I am a firm believer that everything is for a reason. Even if we don't understand why it's happening in the moment that it's happening, everything is for a reason. I have had such a, if you want to call it like a vibrational shift this year. So one of the things I kind of want to do is to talk about some of the highlights that have been the biggest pivotal shift in my year this year, and then kind of talk about goal setting for 2025. I want to start the year off strong tomorrow for you guys. I want to kind of give you guys an idea on what some of my goals are. Maybe it's an accountability thing that if you guys are going to follow me on this journey through the podcast, we will be giving updates throughout the year as we are conquering and slaying some of these goals. So what changed this year internally? This year was interesting because I did more traveling this year than I'd ever done in my entire life. And one of that, I can thank the bariatric community of TikTok, because I started doing like meetups and stuff last year, and never having been able to be in a position to travel very much. I use these as excuses to put myself out there and meet some people and make some friends and have these experiences that I caught the travel bug like hard. And I think in 2024, I pretty much traveled somewhere almost every month this year. I went to Nashville for the first time. I went to St. Louis. I went to Orlando. I went to Kentucky. I went back home to California after I moved. I've been to Oklahoma. Like, I just started going all over the place. And so one of my goals for 2025 is we are going to keep going with that theme, and we're going to do some more traveling. But in those travels, the one that stands out the most is I think it was April 27th, 2024. I got together with a bunch of people who are MOBA supporters of Master Badassery, which is my brand, and we set out to do a Tough Mudder. I have never done anything like this my entire life before. My buddy Bobby and I were talking about wanting to do something challenging, and he said that there was a Tough Mudder in St. Louis and that we should do it together. And I said, you know what? There was a time I would have never thought that I would be able to do anything physical in that capacity. There was a time when I could barely walk up the stairs without gasping for air. There was a time that if I was sitting in a chair, I would always have to extend my arm out to have somebody come and pick me up and help me off the couch or something. So the idea of doing something physically demanding like that was a challenge I was excited for. And so we were talking about it often. And then all of a sudden, somebody's like, I want to do it with you. And I said, yeah, it's not like an exclusive club or anything. If you want to do it, do it. And then that person was talking about it, and then other people started signing up. And by the time of the end of April, when we went to St. Louis, there was probably 15 of us, all decked out in our MOBA gear. And we did a 15K Tough Mudder obstacle course. I think there was 25 different obstacles. And when I tell you That has been by far the hardest thing that I have ever done, encompassing both physical and mentally at the same time. In my entire life, I've never done 15K. I've never done 10 miles in a sitting. I remember the most I'd ever done at one time was about 5 miles. I was over 350 pounds and I thought I was going to die. My feet were riddled in blisters and I never did it again. But the reason that this weekend stands out to me so much is it wasn't even so much about my personal feat, which, by the way, like, we can get into that, but I got to have this experience with people, 15 or so people, who all had been through the ringer in life. They had dealt with obesity issues. They had lived a life of pain and not feeling worthy and feeling valued and never thinking that they would ever be good enough for anybody, or let alone be able to tackle something like this before. And to watch people climbing over a wall in tears, not necessarily because of the fear of heights, although in my case, I was definitely crying on the inside in some of these challenges, but because in real time, I was watching somebody conquer a dream that they never thought was ever going to be a dream of theirs. That day was the epitome of mindset in so many ways. People who used to walk with a cane or used to be in a wheelchair were climbing through mud and electrical things and climbing over walls. And it wasn't even just the physical feats that we were doing, it was the camaraderie that came with it. It was the community that came with it. We were joking how we had hands on booties. Like, we were literally pushing people over walls. We were working as a team. We started that start line together, and a lot of us went to the finish line together. Now, obviously, during the course of the course, people scatter off into other groups, but nobody was by themselves. Like, there was no MOBA left behind. If there was somebody who didn't want to do a task, people rallied behind them and were encouraging them. And for me, there was an obstacle that I made the mistake. I made the mistake of looking ahead of time at the obstacles. And there was one that involved swimming underwater, muddy water, and there was like a gate that was over you, and there was tarps, and the water was going to be dark. And I remember looking at that, and it was definitely like a claustrophobia kind of thing. And I remembered psyching myself out before that. I kept saying, I'm going to attempt every single obstacle that I can, but that one was going to be the bane of my existence. And sure enough, during that course, we got to the obstacle. And I looked at it and I was watching people do it. And at first I said, fuck it, I'm going to do this. And I got into the water and I had my hand up on the gate. I remember that. And my heart was beating. Literally, as I'm telling the story now, I am feeling anxiety. Like, it's like my body is feeling it all over again. And I plugged my nose and I went underwater and I started going through it. And it was so dark. I instantly panicked, like straight up borderline panic attack. I yanked myself back to where I started. And I remember Beth was at the other end of it and she saw me and I was just shaking my head. And I was nope, not doing this. Like, I tried it. I'm just going to walk around it. I don't have to do every obstacle. And my team at the end was screaming at me, encouraging me, like, you can do this. And I locked eyes with Beth and she just gave me this look that said, you're going to fucking do this. And I was like, kind of like half shaking my head and she's just shaking her head yes. And I'm shaking my head no. And I couldn't really hear her, but it was almost like I can feel her saying, you are going to do this. You are going to conquer this fear. And one of my teammates came over and she said, if you do it, I'll do it with you. We'll do it at the same time. And the reason I struggled so much in that moment too, is I had put this entire event together. I was the face of MOBA. I was the face of this mindset. You can conquer anything that you set your mind to. And in that moment, I feel like I failed everybody. That the one who told everyone, you can do this if you set your mind to it, nothing can stop you. As I was shaking my head no, I was like, I'm a failure. Like, I'm a fraud. Like, how am I going to promote this mindset and I can't even live up to it. And Beth, who had been a big supporter of MOBA and had really embraced the mindset entirely before MOBA and after MOBA, I don't know if she subconsciously knew that I had to do this for me. It wasn't about proving to anybody else. When it comes to setting goals for yourself and having lofty dreams, do not do your goals for anybody else. These should be for yourself. These personal feats that you have are for yourself and for nobody else. I understand that, people want to lose weight for their kids or they want to be healthier because of this and this. At the end of the day, you need to be the best version of yourself for you and for you alone and nobody else. If other people get to benefit from that as a residual thing, then fine. Something tells me that, I don't know if it was the universe or subconsciously, maybe Beth knew what she was doing. I think that she knew that I needed to do it for myself. Didn't matter if I was letting other people down or whatever, I had to prove to myself. So when one of the girls said that she would do it with me, I remember I kind of did some deep breathing. I said, I'm going to give it everything I have. And there was 3 spots where there was a tarp over it. And then it would be like a tarp, and then it was exposed with the gate, and then there was a tarp. So I was like, if I can just get to the gate, I can pull the gate up, I can kind of breathe a little bit or whatever. I just need to get it through there. And I knew, worst case scenario, God forbid if something happened, they unlocked the gate, they let me out, it would be fine. So I had like a backup plan. And so I plugged my nose, I went underwater, I grabbed that gate, and I literally launched myself with every ounce of energy I had. I just freaking launched myself, and I made it to the first opening, and my heart was beating out of my chest. And like, it's kind of weird. Like you kind of feel like the walls caving in. Like I didn't really necessarily hear all the sounds around me. It sounded kind of like that muffled thing that you would see in movies. Like the slow motion, like, if you're listening to this right now, you're like, oh my God. And I took a breath, and I looked at my team, and I plugged my nose, and I did it again. And then I took a count, and then I remember opening my eyes, and I was at the end. And I don't remember crying. I remember being so numb. I don't know if it was the adrenaline that was pumping from my body. Somebody had mentioned after the fact that they had given me a hug. I have no recollection of that. Somebody had mentioned saying something to me afterwards. I have zero recollection of that. I remember Brandon, one of the guys there, had seen me in the distance, and he kind of saw a look on my face, and he came and he walked over to me, and he goes, "Are you okay?" And I was like, I just remember shaking my head slightly, like, no. I just looked I think I was just completely in shock. You would think that maybe the blood had all drained from my body or whatever. I always thought that heights were the biggest fear that I had. That was probably the biggest fear. And to have to face a fear with an audience made it 1,000 times more terrifying, because you didn't want to disappoint people. You didn't want to let people down. I didn't want to become like a fraud or a failure. And I don't know if it was the fact that there was an audience that kind of puts you like in this fight or flight mode, that you're like, I have to fucking do this. I need to figure out a way. And you pull out everything that you have. And that moment was a single defining moment of how powerful mindset can be when you are faced in fear or something that seems unattainable. And that was the pivotal moment physically and mentally this entire year. So much so that we are planning a MOBA Mutter again, I think, in 2025. I think we're planning on doing it in Nashville this time, which I'm really excited about. But physically, that was the hardest thing I'd ever done. What is even crazier about that is somebody who couldn't walk up the stairs without being in pain. I walked over 10 miles. It took us, I think, over the course of probably 5 or 6 hours with all the obstacles. I don't remember being in immense pain. I remember being sore as shit, like afterwards. But I think the high of the accomplishment far outweighed the physical ramifications the toll that it took on your body, because I was on such a high. And I remember a moment at the end when I watched one of the girls, Madison, was climbing up this 40-foot net. And she kept saying she couldn't do it. She couldn't do it. And the teamwork and watching her in tears as she climbed over that wall was one that is forever ingrained in my brain. I watched other people in real time utilize mindset to conquer something that was once never thought possible. That is probably one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to start transitioning from bariatric topics to mindset. Because whether it's bariatric or not bariatric, or weight loss or not weight loss, and relationships and financials and education and jobs and careers, everything is going to revolve around mindset. That's the base of any avenue that you want to excel at. And so I don't want to be pigeonholed into one aspect of myself. Yeah, I had bariatric surgery 10 years ago. I'm not bariatric anymore. I'm just Sherry. I've said that for a long time. Um, but the mindset that I had during that process 10 years ago was the base foundation before MOBA came into existence. The pandemic is, like, as we've talked before, is what really solidified the MOBA mindset in adapting in just natural disasters in life, but being able to apply that mindset to specific goals, to specific tasks, to specific obstacles. That's what this is all about. And so that is why I really want to transition more into mindset. So I've been working on getting some guests lined up, people who have amazing stories where they've overcome shit, and just talking about how mindset is applied to everybody individually. One of the other biggest transitions of this year was moving halfway across the country by myself. And I don't need to tell the whole story if you can watch the first podcast back. But the reason it was so eye opening is the last 6 months, I think, has been the most self reflective that I have ever had in my entire life. And I think one of the reasons is because I was forced for a period of time into, like, this, quote unquote solitude, where I had to face my inner being. I had to face my fears. I had to face my demons. Like, living with somebody for 18 years and then finding yourself, one, living alone, but two, living alone in a completely new city. And it's like a totally different vibe. You go from a bustling Los Angeles to some small town in Oklahoma. Like, that is a culture shock that I don't care how much they prepare you in movies or television or even in your head, you are not fully prepared for that. And so I had talked about in the past about that solitude phase and embracing the calm. And I didn't do that very well. I struggled a lot over the last 6 months, on and off. Some days I was motivated as shit and I was like, I got this and nothing's going to bring me down. And the other days I'm like, what is happening with my life? How am I going to survive this? I can't function. And in that process, like I said, I really dig deep into myself and reflected on past relationships, friendships, family, how I viewed myself, how I viewed others, how others viewed me. And I just had all this silence and I just started, like, reflecting on everything. And in doing that, I was able to accept things I didn't like about myself that I had done, versions of myself that I was not proud of, and the kind of person that I wanted to be. In the last 6 months, I decided the kind of person that I want to be and continue to be, and that I want to strive to still even become. And so, even though the depression part of it was extremely deafening and it was dark on some days, and again, like I said in the beginning, everything is for a reason. Had I not gone through that, I wouldn't have gone through, that transition of my being, so to speak. I needed to go through that. And even though I don't wish it upon anybody, my recommendation is to those of you who are listening, who are ready for this year to be over because it was a shit year for you. It was stressful. You don't know how you're going to survive it. You don't know, how you're going to carry on. Use that time to reflect. Reflecting doesn't cost you anything. I mean, it costs you time, but I'd rather spend time reflecting and figuring out what I could do differently moving forward. Because here's the thing, we can't change the past. We can go back and we can dwell on the mistakes of ourselves and others, but there's nothing we can do to change that. So instead of spending countless hours in this wallowing of, the current circumstances, and then reflecting on all the times that you've been screwed over in the past, use that time to be like, what can I learn from this? What has that experience, event, downfall, obstruction, what has that taught me? What can I learn from this and carry it on? How do I want to handle this? Do I want to throw in the towel? Do I want to fight for it? What do I want to do? So, although I don't want to wish what I've been through onto anybody, if you find yourself in that place already, utilize it to your best potential of becoming a better version of yourselves. And some days, look, it's easier than others. Easier said than done. It's a recurring theme that people say, but definitely embrace it. And what's so funny is today's the 31st. I was on social media yesterday, and you have like that time hop app that tells you like things that you posted. There was something that I posted 12 years ago on my blog, on the Sherry Arcuria blog, and it was called Me, Myself, and I vaguely remember this blog. I didn't remember the specifics of what I wrote, but I came across this yesterday and I said, my God, talk about everything happening for a reason and fitting and things lining up how they need to. So I'm going to read you this blog real quick. And I would love to know your thoughts in the comments on what you think about it. I must have zoned out when I wrote this because I don't remember any of this, but to me, solitude is one's own absolute being. When in complete and total solitude, when no thoughts cloud yourself, you are an absorbed being of everything you have learned, will learn, and know in this exact moment. It is when we are out of solitude that we become jaded by expectations set forth by other people as well as ourselves. Outside of this solitude, we are merely humans interacting with other humans in nature, wearing different masks to fit different circumstances. When you are in solitude, you are in a spiritual setting, aside from religious connotations or assumptions. There's no religion in this spirituality, for religion fits within the realms of mask wearing and jadedness. You can use this experiencing solitude as a way to subconsciously gather your thoughts and emotions to be interpreted as only your mind can handle. It is in this state that you are completely and utterly true to your inner and outer selves, and thus you can gain impeccable wisdom and enlightenment. Solitude is meant for relaxation of self, body, and mind. For those who feel overwhelmed and anxious, is only because they are overanalyzing and overthinking the purpose of this act, and therefore cannot differentiate between the conscious thought and the subconscious mind. Anxiety is the product of metaphorical struggle between ego and self, in which the conscious mind is fighting to relinquish control. It is when you can truly learn to let go and trust yourself that you can step foot on the path to enlightenment. I don't know, man. Like, something like reading that yesterday just was this huge freaking light bulb. Like, all of these things that I was bitching for months about not being able to embrace the calm. I can't handle the quiet. I can't handle the solitude. I was going stir crazy. I was feeling like Jack Nicholson in The Shining at one point. Like, I just want to start running down the street screaming out red rum or whatever with like a packet of ketchup. I don't know if I manifested this in some way 12 years ago. I don't know. And to be honest, I don't even remember what was happening 12 years ago to have even inspired that thought process to even write it down in a blog. Like, that's how insignificant whatever the event was in that moment is. So insignificant. I don't even remember what it was, but the result of it is now going to have a lasting impact. And so one of the things that I embrace people to start to do for yourselves in 2025 is I'm not going to, manifest for you guys to be put in a position of depression and solitude, but maybe take certain periods of time and just close everything off to the world. Isolate yourself and just be one with yourself and just analyze, reflect, just transform, figure out what you need to do, what is lacking, ask for guidance, like whether it's in a spiritual sense or not. But take that time, because in that solitude, when no one else is around you, there's no other influences, there's no social media or FaceTiming or TikToks. It's just you and your thoughts. and no one can take your thoughts away from you. And then once you're really honing in on your self-talk and what your self-thoughts are, that is where you're going to find that is your true self, because you don't have an audience. Everything that you're feeling in that moment is 100% genuine, because there's no mask that you're wearing at that time. And so give yourself a chance to be raw and to be who you truly are. And from there, you will determine the kind of person that you want to continue to be. Um, yeah, this year, like I said, has just been, it's so funny. Like even in 2019 on my year-end blog, I wrote, it was like the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. And I'm starting to notice like this running trend every year where I keep saying the same thing. And when I was talking to my friend Beth the other day, she had mentioned, why is it that everyone's so quick to write off the year and just start the new year? Why is it that we're so like, oh, I can't wait for this year to be over and start fresh? Like, why are we not fixating on all of the good things that happened this year? And it's just like in social media, somebody can write a positive post. You can have 100 positive comments on something that you posted. One person writes something negative, and then we obsess over the negative instead of obsessing over the positive stuff. And I think that I found myself over the last couple of months kind of in that headspace too. Like I was so fixated on all the things that were going wrong and the blind sides and the things that, I've struggled with, that I forgot that Tough Mudder was even this year. That was this year. That was 7 months ago, 8 months ago was that moment. And that was one of the greatest highs of my entire life. And I finished the book in 2024. I wrote a second book. Like, not a lot of people can say that. And I put my heart into it. And even though I've taken a step back from MOBA, I would go strong, I would fall back. This year was my year of self-discovery. This was my year of picking myself up, dusting myself off. But instead of just picking myself up, I stayed on the ground for a while and I felt the metaphorical earth and everything around me. And I reflected a lot. And as a result, I am excited for 2025 and what that is going to bring. But I wouldn't be as excited for 2025 had I not known what to compare it to. I had to have lows this year. It has completely and truly defined who I am. So what I wanted to do is, like I said in the beginning, I want to have some accountability for myself. And I would love for you guys to write in your comments some of the things that you would like to accomplish, your goals. When it comes to setting a goal, I think oftentimes we kind of half-ass it in the sense, it's like the New Year's resolutions, New Year, New Me bullshit. That was like a trend for so many years. And that it was always the same thing. I can look back at some of my old goals, like even from high school. I want to lose weight. I want more money. I want these things. And I would write all these things and then nothing would ever come to fruition. I'm like, well, what's the point of manifesting if nothing's going to come to fruition? And I realized I wasn't being specific enough. If I say that I want more money and I walk outside and I find a nickel on the ground, I just found more money. Now, it wasn't the money that I was hoping for, but I didn't tell the universe or myself what I was manifesting. And when I was younger, when I was really financially struggling, Eric and I were like, having cars repossessed and stuff. And I would figure out like what our monthly bills were and we couldn't afford them. And I would write on a piece of paper how much money we needed to make to be able to pay our bills. And then I would even try to factor in a perfect world, if I can set $500 aside into a savings account, and if I account for that and I account for, food and gas, and I account for, maybe like some luxuries, going out to dinner and stuff like that. And I would come up with a number, and it would say, living in California, it would probably be like $5,000 a month. And I'm like, oh my God, when you're making like $1,200 a month, you're like, that is just unrealistic. And I remember, and I would save all my notebooks, because, I'd throw them in boxes and stuff. And I remembered years later, I was going through stuff and I found one of the old notebooks and it said I needed to make $5,000 in a month to be able to make all of these things come to fruition. And I looked at my checking account at the time. We were bringing in way more than that. And I was like, I don't know if I manifested it or what, but at one point I thought that was not imaginable. Like, what do you have to do to you'd have to work, 24 hours a day. Now, granted, I did work very, very many hours. I worked multiple jobs, but the point being is I was very specific in when I was writing those goals. And so when it came to, if you want a goal of like making more money, be specific. How much money do you want to see visually sitting in that checking account or that savings account? What was that money going to go towards, so that you can visualize where it's going towards. If you say, I want to lose weight, be specific with it. Don't base it on a number. Base it on, how do you want to feel? How do you want to look? Is there a certain pair of pants, something that's visually or aesthetically, tangible to be able to measure, how that you achieved it? If there's physical activities, like I want to be able to squat. Well, how many squats do you want to do? How many, like how far do you want to go down? Like, I feel like the more specific we are, we want to make sure that our goals are smart, they are measurable, they are attainable, they are relatable. And more than anything, what is our why? Why do we want to accomplish these goals? Is it because somebody thinks that we need to do it? Is it something that because we genuinely want to do it? And then once you have your goals, then from there you can narrow it down into like an action plan, and how do we accomplish it and how do we get there. So I thought it'd be fun to kind of share with you some of the goals that I put together for 2025. Now there's a chance we might accomplish all of these. There's a chance that we might not accomplish nearly as much. And there's a chance that these goals can change throughout the year. Like, these are not set in stone, but these are things that I, have always wanted to do. And so I thought this could be a fun way of holding myself accountable, especially as MOBA is starting to grow. We have revamped it. We are doing more challenges in the new year. We have so many exciting things. I'll get to that in the end. So some of my goals for 2025. I want to do another Tough Mudder. There's one in Nashville. I believe it's in October. So that gives me, I believe, 10 months to train for it. I know what I was physically capable of being able to do this year. I know which areas of improvement I need to work on. And so because that is my ultimate goal, that is a very specific event that I would like to do. And there are specific obstacles there. And in order to do that, it relies heavily on being able to carry your own body weight and upper body strength and leg strength and stuff. So as a result, to help assist me in conquering that goal, I am creating MOBA challenges that are going to help me get to that goal. That is one of the things. Some of the physical activities, I've never done a pull-up unassisted. I've never done a single pull-up, actually. So that is one of my goals. I've always wanted to do a handstand. I want to be able to squat on the floor, which for some people might seem silly, but I've never been able to squat like all the way down. I've never been able to be one of those people who can squat, kneel down and squat on the floor while you're talking to somebody or getting something, picking up something, because my knees have always been in so much pain from decades of abuse to my body. So those are things I'm going to be working on, is building my leg strength, building my arm strength, building my upper body strength. Those are things that I want to, let me refrain. Those are things I'm going to annihilate in 2025. I do want to get my arm surgery done. I did get blindsided a little bit, so I do have to put it on the back burner for right now. But again, that's on my goal. So I am working my way backwards from the goal in doing what I need to do to get my ducks in a row to make that come into fruition. So I will be having a brachioplasty in 2025. Just the date is to be determined. And I accept that. For whatever reason, it had to happen in the way that it did. One of the things I put on my list is I want to act in a theater production. I was a theater geek in high school and a little bit in junior high. There's a small theater house here in Oklahoma. It's about 15, 20 minutes away. And so one of my goals is I want to have fun and I want to be a part of a community out here and meet some people. And what better way than to make an ass out of yourself in some production, and kind of rekindle a passion that I had that I haven't really like delved into in like 20 years. I didn't want to just focus on adulting. I wanted to find something that would kind of bring back the youthful essence that I used to have, and being able to recreate that youth excitement, but with the body I was always supposed to have and the energy I was always supposed to have. I was wildly insecure in high school. I didn't really audition for very much. I had bad experiences when I would audition as a kid. And so I would love to see like how different it would be now with an upgraded, leveled up version of Sherry. So I want to be in a theater production. So as the months go along in this podcast, I will keep you posted if we ever do get cast in something. So that would be something really fun that I would be excited to do. Um, I wanted to create goals in 2025 that were personal goals, that were professional goals, um, financial goals. So physical goals was like the Tough Mudder, doing certain physical activities, having arm surgery. Business side, Blindsided is pretty much done. I finished the editing process. I'm going to be sending it off to a couple of people to read over and just glance over and make sure, get feedback and see if there's anything that needs to get cleaned up or changed. But I will be publishing Blindsided within hopefully the next 3 months. That is my personal game plan. I already have my structured to-do list on everything I need to do to make that come into fruition. Now that we're bringing the podcast back, I have personal goals regarding the podcast and for MOBA. One of the things I'm very excited about is we are currently working in the very, very beginning stages of developing a MOBA app. And so as the weeks go on, I would be able to provide more updates on that. But I'm really excited because it's not something that we have currently out there right now. There's a lot of stuff specifically for fitness and for water intake and tracking food. There's nothing really there for specifically mindset. And like, that's obviously a very broad term. We do have a plan in place on exactly what our mission wants to be. It ties into the MOBA mentality. It ties into everything that MOBA stands for. It's just another way to bring community together and conquer some shit in the very near future. So as that's developing, I will keep you guys posted. And I want to keep traveling. I have some trips that I have in my head. I will be possibly going to North Carolina for an event. I think there's an event in St. Louis again. I plan on going to Nashville again for Tough Mudder. I would love to go back to Canada again. I had a great time in Canada a few months ago. And I want to find 2 or 3 new cities that I've never been to this year. There's some that I want to travel back to and visit some friends, but I want to find like 3, at least 2 unique cities. Let me rephrase. I'm going to find 2 unique cities to travel to that I've never been to and have a new experience. I am working also on being able to start coaching in the near future on mindset. That is something that I have in place that will hopefully be part of the app as well. So taking all the steps that I need to do to make sure that I am the best version of myself in order to carry out that task. I'm going to get a new guitar. One of my goals for 2025 is to write and record a new song. I haven't recorded music in, again, probably 12, 15 years. It was something that I used to be passionate about, something that I used to have so much fun doing, and then life got in the way and I just kind of stopped doing it. I love the creative process. I need to be in the creative process. I know that that's what I need. And so finding outlets to be able to be creative is something that I very much enjoy. And then, okay, this one's weird, but I don't know, it's probably not weird. I want to do a boudoir shoot. I've never done one before. So one of my goals is, we're doing a new fitness challenge for January for MOBA. We're doing an arm challenge. And I have 2 challenges that I'm running currently. One of them encompasses, following, a healthy eating plan and making sure you hit your water goals. And then there's certain fitness challenges and stuff. So I like the accountability for myself putting these challenges together because, one, it helps me, with my physical and emotional well-being. And then it helps me keep accountable. It helps me keep with structure. So there is I don't want to say a certain number on the scale because the number on the scale is always changing. There's a certain size that I would like to be. And as a reward to myself, once I accomplish that, is I would like to do a boudoir shoot. Because anybody who knows me, I've talked about it before. I was a tomboy growing up. I was never girly. I was never feminine. I love ballroom dancing, but I always struggled being kind of clunky in the ballroom dancing because I never really learned or knew how to express sensuality and femininity and grace in that capacity. I was always the one who would make jokes or sarcasm or try to brush off any idea of beauty by making jokes about it. So one of the goals for 2025 is to embrace a more feminine side and be okay with that and being comfortable in my body and feeling beautiful in my body, regardless of the size that I'm at. And I could technically go out and do one now, but for me, I wanted to have something tangible as a reward to show off the fruits of my labors. And so that is one of my goals. Um, I mean, I have other things on here too, but you don't need to know all my shit. Some of the shit is just for me. So I would love to know in the comments, what are some of your goals for 2025? For anybody who is interested in being part of the beta testing for the app, send me a message. You can comment on this video if you'd like. I'm currently, if you want to send me your email, I can add you to the list once we start the beta testing phase. I would love to get as much feedback as I can to be part of it. And then when it comes to MOBA, Master of Badassery, we have a lot of exciting things planned in 2025. We are working on new products. We have 2 of them in production right now. There's some more core cats that are going to be going into production. We have new product launches in clothing and styles, and we have more logos in the works. And between that and the challenges, like, we are just ready to really amp this up and take it to the next level, because one of my ultimate goals, likely not in 2025, but long-term goals, is I want to plan massive yearly or biannually meetups for MOBA and do MOBA games and do mental and physical challenges and team building and really working on mindset in different aspects of our being that will also tie into the app, which will also tie into the brand. I am ready for 2025 to just completely take off and soar. I needed 2024 to get through all of the bullshit, to pull out all the weeds. I had to pluck shit from the ground up. And now we have a clean slate. And I am so fucking excited about that. Like, I just in the last 72 hours, the amount of changes and resources that I have come across is so freaking exciting. When it comes to the podcast, I would love to hear from you. If you have a story that you want to tell, if there's somebody that you know that would be a really great guest, I want to talk to people who've overcome shit, who have conquered shit, who have utilized mindset to get through really tough places. Because anything that you are feeling in this moment, if you are not at your best self, somebody has felt that too. And if there's a way to help inspire and motivate more people just with storytelling and giving people a voice, that is what I'm all about. So I would love to hear from you. If there's certain topics that you would like to see in the new year specifically, please let me know in the comments, send me a message, let me know. I welcome any and all feedback, criticisms, and everything. I want to excel at this, and I want to do well, and I'm not going to be able to excel at it as much if it's not for you guys. So I need your input. I need your thoughts. I want to hear your stories. I want you to have your voices heard. So on that note, I'm just excited. I'm not excited that the year is over. And I'm not excited just for the new year. I am just excited in general. I'm excited for, I don't want to say I'm excited for what I've been through this year. I know I had to, but you know what? I'm excited. I'm excited because of everything that I've gone through and am in this place right now. I truly feel unstoppable, and I do not plan on slowing down anytime soon. I am learning to have boundaries, and I'm learning to create more structure and not overly burn myself out. But there's just too much. There's too much work to be done, you guys. Like, there's just too much that I want to do. There's too much help that I want to give, and we have a lot of stuff in the works right now. So when it comes to the new year, I hope that I would love to hear some of your goals, but even if you don't want to share them, take time to set goals for yourself. Give yourself something to be excited about. Give yourself something to fixate your energy on, especially on the days when things seem tough and hard and frustrating. Having something to visualize, I don't know, like, for me, it lights a fire. It gives me something tangible to fixate my energy on. When I'm fixating on doing something specific, I'm not thinking about the bullshit around me. I'm not thinking about the failed relationships or friendships or drama or bullshit or financial stresses or whatever the case may be. I'm focusing on the task, and this task is somehow going to propel me forward in some way. Whether it creates a natural high and puts me in a better mood that can help me conquer other things down the road, then fine. Or if it's something that can somehow propel yourself in life, whether it's financially or in your career, in your relationship, like whatever the case may be, when you're fixated on a goal, don't let anything stop you. And here's the thing, there's going to be roadblocks. Like we've said, things are going to happen, but we have to be adaptable. We have to constantly change our mindset and how we look at things. And we just have to keep pushing forward no matter what. So when you're setting your goals, make sure that they are attainable. Make sure that they are measurable. How are you going to know that you accomplished your goal? How are you going to know that there was success? How are you going to know that you succeeded? Write it down. Be specific. If you want more money, how much money do you want? You want to lose weight? What size do you want to be in? How do you want to look in the mirror? You want to be a promotion at a job? What's the job title? What are the exact job duties that you're going to have? If you want to find somebody in the new year, be specific. What are you looking for? I'm not saying that you have to create this box that somebody has to fit a certain box, but they don't have to look a certain way. But how, and visualize, write down, how do you want to feel when you're around them? How do you want to feel in the way that you're being treated? What kind of adventures do you want to go with on somebody? What kind of avenues and hobbies and activities do you want to do with somebody? And then that's the kind of people that you're going to attract. Is the more specific that you are, the more you are going to accomplish. If you have certain personal goals, like writing a book or creating a project or creating a product of something else or whatever, what do you want it to look like? Visualize what it's going to look like. Be specific in what you're writing down your goals to be. And then once you have your massive goal, what are the steps to get there? How are you going to get there? What do you need to do? What resources do you currently have? What resources do you need to find from the outside? Are there people that you can talk to? Like YouTube and Google are great resources to be able to find these kind of things. The point is, we have to stop sitting around and saying, one day, I wish, I want. Moving forward, I am getting, I am doing, I am being, and just fucking go out there and get it. So on that note, I hope that you guys have the most amazing new year. I hope that you guys all have a safe holiday tonight. Please be careful. Side note, there is no destination that is worth driving under the influence for. Just be safe, be mindful, take care of yourself, and start thinking about the person you're going to be in 2025. Happy New Year, and we will see you next.